Good morning, everyone. This is Charlotte, and we are chatting in cars. This is a podcast where I've chosen random topics out of a bag, as you well know, probably because you might have listened to the other ones. It is currently 7:21, and we are driving to work on a Wednesday. So, there is a trigger warning at the start of this podcast, because yes, I swear. Quite frequently, actually. It's like punctuation to me. And there are also sensitive topics, of which probably today will be one of those, considering the topic for today is coercion. Coercion is when you are using, I suppose, manipulation to convince someone to do something. It is a control issue. We are all subject to coercion in one way or another. You could go through the media and say that coercion comes from marketing, for example. That's a pretty easy one to... They're trying to convince you to do something, essentially. Convince you to buy our product. Some of the worst examples of coercion I've been subject to is things like coercive rape or, generally abuse from my childhood. Where my parents have wanted me to do something and they coerced me by beating the shit out of me. Anyone will submit under torture, won't they? So, what are the dangers of coercion? It is very dangerous to be coerced into something that you are unsure as to the consequences of. For example, if you are like a drug mule, for example, maybe you knew a guy and you were traveling on holiday, and maybe he asked you to bring a present back for his mate, and maybe the present has drugs in it and you didn't know, but you were coerced into it, and now you're banged up in Indonesia in a prison. Completely screwed over for running drugs, even though it wasn't you and you just thought you were doing something for a friend or for a nice guy that you met. That is a form of very negative coercion. A form of good, positive coercion is maybe, I don't know, from my example, having a teacher help you with your maths, because you want to get better at maths. But in order to do that, they have to keep you in line, so maybe they're using some kind of behavior management strategies to stop you from, straying and getting distracted. So that's coercion itself. It's where you are convinced that you need to act a certain way as well, or someone will try to get you to act a certain way in order to achieve something. It's a manipulative thing as well. The most negative thing I've been, subject to was coercive rape. And it happened in my relationship with my boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend, where we had come in from drinking one night, and of course, yes, alcohol is an aphrodisiac, of course. So my head and emotions weren't in the right spot. So I didn't trust him at the time. Something was going on in the background. It was just, things didn't feel right that he was being sort of faithful to me, sort of thing. So when he started up, I said no. I can't do this right now. I'm not interested. I can't trust you. I don't feel like it. But he kept going. All he did was, I think at one point at the start he had his hands on my boobs, basically. And then, I said no, moved his hands away. And then he went round, for the crotch. And then it, and eventually they'll sort of convince you that you want to do it. Apparently it's seduction. I called it coercive rape. Because I said no. But we were drunk at the time. And of course I gave in because he was my boyfriend, which is the stupidest thing to do, because regardless of what position he has in your life, or they have in your life, whether you're a male or female, if you say no, no means no. It's hands off, get off. That's it. Consent is such a big thing these days. It needs to be a bigger thing, because we put up with so much shit from our partner when we don't want to, for the sake of, keeping the peace or keeping things running. And at the time I said yes, mainly because I just wanted to, he wasn't a very, confronting person. He wasn't, aggressive or anything. It was just like, oh, you want this and I'm going to do it. It's like, no, I don't want it actually. But he was convinced that I did. So he kept going. He didn't stop. We had sex, but at the same time, I didn't feel right afterwards, and I didn't like it. And I felt like shit. And the way he has sex was too fucking rough anyway. So at some point it did feel a bit like rape. So, it's a very odd thing. But people don't pay mind to that because they're convinced in their own mind that you want to do this. And they can't accept no for an answer. And he's done that twice now. And in the end, I stopped saying no because there was no point. It didn't mean anything with him. It's so weird that guys these days can't figure that out. Or maybe that was just one particular guy who's a fucking idiot. Possibly. But I think also that's part of the male, sort of toxic male thing. It's like, of course a girl wants to do this with me. It's like, well, she said no, but, you know, keep going anyway because I'm me. So I don't know. It's a weird mentality to have. I know he is a toxic masculine, so that's why I left, because he was all round fucking toxic. So coercive rape can be a life changer. It will make you stand up for yourself if you've got the balls to actually do it and say no and stick to your guns. I know now that it is an absolute red flag. I don't have to comply. And it stems from, what it stems from, first of all, I got a high sex drive. I'll give him that. So yes, most of the time I won't say no. But the circumstances of that scenario were that I didn't feel he was being faithful to me. So I had said no. I'm like, no, at this point I don't trust you. I don't want to. That was an emotional, psychological thing. Whether we were drinking or not didn't factor into it. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't count. If someone says no, sober or pissed, it shouldn't fucking, you know, it doesn't matter if you're drunk. If no is a no. But yeah, he kept going. So I'm like, I don't know. There is the option to press charges for that these days. I know there's new policies and laws involved, but at this point I'm just like, I don't fucking care. I think punishment enough is me leaving him for being a douchebag at this point. I have a feeling that was his behavior for years, because he's been doing this kind of shit for 20 years now. And maybe he doesn't see it as coercive rape. But as soon as that word no appears, that's against my will and against consent. So that was twice. The other thing, I was sexually assaulted by my cousin. Again, alcohol induced. I don't know why these boys like doing this. We'd gone out drinking and I brought him home because like he was crashing with me. But for some reason he decided to take the opportunity, and I don't know why. But I tried to, you know, mediate the circumstance of what happened later on when I went over to the UK to go and see him. And he visited me, like he came and saw me the first time to check and, you know, and did it again. So I was like, oh, fuck's sake, okay. And then I went over a second time and he wanted nothing to do with me. And I'm like, you won't even talk to me, you won't even see me, you won't even do that. So yeah, that was a weird experience. So, but then again, we weren't raised together, and that was my mum's response to it. It's like, it's okay because you're not raised together. And I'm going, he's my fucking cousin, dude. Some fucked up shit right there. But I think she was just trying to, you know, level out what happened with herself, because she was sexually assaulted as a child by her uncle, as far as she says. And no one did anything about that. So when I get sexually assaulted by my cousin, who seems to have no fucking problem with doing it, by the way, which was unnerving. The thing was, you know, you weren't raised together. So there's no sort of closeness there, apparently, and that makes a difference. Nothing to do with the fact that we're blood related and stuff, which I'm pretty sure is illegal in itself, besides being sexually assaulted, you know. So I've got to contend with all that shit in my head. It's like, what the fuck just happened? And that's the kind of shit that made me stop drinking, to be honest. I was teetotaler for like 15 years before I ran into my now ex-boyfriend. I started going out for drinks with him because that was what he was about. He liked going and getting drunk. So yeah, so I'm back to being a teetotaler. Funny enough. Yeah, it's not hard to, as far as I can see. I haven't got any kind of addictive characteristics there. It's not something I use as a crux. It's not anything that I've formed a habit with, so I'm lucky in that sense. Some people are predisposed to be alcoholics, I'm afraid. That's nature and nurture. But I was lucky in that I don't have that form of addiction. I do have a sugar addiction though. That's crazy. It's like fairy crack to me. But I saw the trigger that would lead to those kinds of things, and I know even now that I won't meet up with my ex-boyfriend because he wanted to catch up for a coffee, but I know what his methods are. I know now that it will start with coffee, and then it'll be like, oh, let's go get some lunch, and then it'll be like, oh, let's have a few pints. and then I'll be back on his apartment couch, and him, doing no, me saying no again, which is what happened the last 2 fucking times. And yeah, so it's just, you got to recognize where it's going to go. I think it's the best way to get out of that coercive cycle. And I was raised a people pleaser. And I do berserker parents who set me up for a fall there because all I wanted to do was make them happy with trauma. It was trauma bonding. If they stopped shouting at me and they said anything that wasn't, like getting blasted or getting hit or something like that, I was like, oh, this must be affection. So I was doing whatever I could to keep them happy or, stop them from doing horrible things. And that just led to getting sucked into a relationship or in a marriage with an overt narc who did the same fucking things. He was critical as fuck. And if I wanted his favor, if I wanted him to be nice to me, I had to do whatever he wanted me to do. And that's coercive as well. It was like half the stuff I put up with I didn't have to put up with, but I wanted to do it because I thought that's what he liked and he would like me for it. Women these days can be quite compliant to men just to get them to like them. I know I'm watching these 3 girls that were in our social group. They're young girls in their 20s, but they are going through the same shit that I went through or similar shit through in my 20s, where they're people pleasing, but instead of people pleasing by like giving people gifts and things like that and being nice to them, they're people pleasing by, giving men their bodies. So they're doing it for popularity. They're doing it for acceptance. I don't know if they're assuming there's going to be any kind of emotions involved, but they seem to be putting it around. I'm like, guys, if you give it to the guys for free, they're not going to bother putting any effort in because they know they can get it for free. And it goes both ways. Guys, if girls can get it for free, they probably fucking will. It's that kind of a person that will exploit situations. It's not down to sex or gender, if you recognize gender. But we're raised to be people pleasers. We want to be nice and we help. And if we're nice to people, we assume they're going to be nice back. And it's not always the case. A lot of people will take that and just run with it. And coercion plays on that. We hoped that the good outcome will come from it. Like maybe there'll be love and romance and all that lovely stuff. But from my experience, from my marriage, all I did was lose a shitload of money and get used. And from my ex-boyfriend, I got used for money and sex again. Because I'm pretty convinced he was fucking other people on the side at this point, considering I kept finding like fake rhinestones running around the house and, like 2 toothbrushes in the shower and shit like that when I'd visit on the weekends and going, who the fuck stayed over? And it's like, oh no, it's just a spare. It's like, okay, so why are the sheets dirty? Yeah, there was all little hints like, this fucker ain't the real deal, man. But I brushed over it because I didn't want to see it at the time. But then they're all sort of mounted up and I'm going, I've seen these patterns before. I've seen these patterns with my ex-husband. I don't want to do this again. So you've got to break that cycle. And they will try to convince you verbally. And at the current point, my ex-boyfriend is still trying to convince me that he hasn't done anything wrong, even though there's physical evidence, and that he's, he misses me and all that shit. And I'm sitting there going, I'm not fucking doing this, mate. I've got physical evidence that you're a tosser. Go away. So you just got to stand your ground, I think. I would have loved to have given him the benefit of the doubt, but at this point I'm just like, you're an immature idiot. I cannot tolerate that level of dumb shittery. I just can't. So, what a fucking moron. Yeah, so you got to stand your ground. What are things can you be coerced into? Oh my god, my speech is going already. What can you be coerced into? I don't know if it's just me. Does anybody get instant rage with advertisements? As soon as they turn up, I'm like anti-buying whatever they're selling. It's like, that could just be like some childhood trauma thing. But at the same time, I'm like, as soon as you fuckers turn up and interrupt my feed on my YouTube or something like that, which is probably ironic because at some point these podcasts will probably have ads on them. Ironic, hypocritical, probably hypocritical. I'm instantly not wanting to buy that product. So it's like, come buy our Hoover. Oh, fuck no, go away. I was watching something there and you just bugged me. Why would I do that? So I don't know how they expect marketing to work. Who's actually buying into the advertisements? I don't know. Someone. Probably the older generations or something, because this is the way they were fed information. Right now we're railing against it, I think, because it's annoying to have them pop up, and it's constantly. If they hadn't saturated the market so much with advertisements, maybe we'd be more subject to buying their shit, but it's an annoyance now, so now we don't want to. It's in the way. It's like I was watching this, you've just completely broken the mood I was in while I was watching it, and now I want nothing to do with your shit. So it's annoying. There's a bit of a victim mentality there. It's like, you hurt my feelings with your breaking shit in my ads. Yeah. But anyway, sorry if that wasn't coherent. I've still got like 4 or 5 cups of coffee in me. Behaviorally, like if you're being a parent, coercion can be an asset or it can be a curse. Depends on the way you do it. Like with, like my parents. My parents were, there is a name for it, it's either authoritarian or authoritative. I think it's authoritarian. It's very similar but different, similar words but different methods. It's the one where they use fear to coerce you into doing things. And a prisoner will say anything under torture. So it works. If you are a pain avoidant, and as a child we are naturally inclined to be pain avoidant, you will do what they say. That includes emotional, psychological abuse. That involves breaking down your self-esteem and ego. And so my ex-husband did that, actually. Where you are compliant to what you want them to do because you're trying to avoid the pain of losing face or physical pain, violence. Again, all that does is breed insurgency. You wonder why kids rebel against their parents. It's probably because you fucked them up. It's like, why aren't you doing what I said? Because essentially, you can choke a dog so long before it turns on you. It either dies or turns on you. And if you've got one of those, you ever seen those chains they put around dogs' necks, where it's like a tourniquet? Eventually, it will tighten and tighten and tighten. It will either turn on you, or it will die. So every animal wants to survive, so the natural consequence is it will turn on you. It just makes sense. It's like, it's not going to be compliant forever. If you had used a nice leash instead of a chain that digs into its throat, maybe it would have had a different outcome. I don't know. But my parents, my mum in particular, was an iron-fisted kind of parent. She didn't take insubordination. She didn't take deviance from the plan. Any behaviours were met with physical violence or, emotional, psychological abuse. My dad was a berserker. His version of coercion was to make them fear you. So I spent, at the very least, from 5 or 8. 8 from my dad. 8 is when my dad kicked off, really, in force. 5, my mum was doing it. Till about 19 for both of them. So I moved out at 19. That's when I removed myself from exposure to the abuse. Coercion. Violent coercion. At that point, at 19, it was such a breath of air to get out of that house. But at the same time, I didn't know what to do with myself. So I went into a spiral of destruction because I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know how to exist without somebody sitting there pulling on that chain, telling me what to do. So the majority of my learning experiences came from negative experiences. So I had to rebuild myself. I had to unparent myself and put in some new forms of parenting and parenting, which would be constructive. And to be honest, in a kind of smug way, I turned out better than my parents could have made me, I think. But at the same time, I've still got what they taught me in the background. So when it comes to situations where I need to just get on with it and push, and there's no luxury of softness, I can. But at the same time, I would prefer to take the soft approach. So at the moment, I know currently I'm having to use a lot of discipline because there's not a lot of money around and I still need to get jobs done. So in that respect, yes, I am using what they taught me, and they taught me in a horrible way, but I still learned the lessons. How to be, thrifty in a time of poverty, things like that, and how to just keep going and, cut off feeling and keep moving. I suppose they were building us for toughness, if you want to look at it in an optimistic way. But at the time, it was just straight up abuse. It's like, I have no emotional connection to my parents right now because they shut it off. I mean, if we were cutting ties with our parents emotionally, it's because they handed me the knife. It's it's like you taught me. What was it? There's a book, Becoming, not the importance of being earnest, but Great Expectations, where she says, "You made me into a knife, so what if I cut?" It's like, yes. You're going to reap the benefits of what you create. So if you create this person through coercion, negative coercion, who is, devoid of feeling, will use your methods against you, don't be surprised when they, insurgency ensues. They will turn against you. At this point, I haven't bothered turning against my parents because there's no point. There would be no benefit to turning on them at this point. And maybe that was part of their game, but I don't know. But I would not get anything out of them. If I went back and said, this was my abusive childhood, I'm going to press charges, you did this to me, I have this as a result of your version of parenting and upbringing, what would happen? At best, they'd go to prison. It wouldn't do anything really because they're in their late 60s now. And they might use the excuse of mental health, which I can see happening because they're both fucked in the head. They might blame the system, DCP didn't get involved. They might blame me because they might say, oh, you were a shit anyway, this is what we did. Or they might use the excuse, this is all we knew at the time, this is what we were working with. We use what we had. So no real outcome will come out of this. There's not going to be any kind of apology. My mum still thinks she was a good mum. I'm going, are you fucking mental? And in like a sort of stab in the back sort of thing, a little shank, she'll say, was I a good mum? I'm like, well, in truth, no. But I'm not going to say that now because you're in your late 60s and nearly dead. So it would be nasty of me to point that out, wouldn't it? So I'm not sure if that's some kind of way she's covering her ass because she knows what my reply would be. She's created this people pleaser, and even now I'm still like, oh, I still don't want to hurt your feelings even though you fucked me up my entire life. It's a weird cyclic thing. And she's definitely a narc because even now she'll pull the same narcissistic shit. Like if you're having trouble, like when I was separated and I needed help finding a house, and I was 10 grand in debt, and I said, look, I need help with money and stuff like that. I'm in debt. Can you help me? Or even when I was like looking for help with the bond for my first apartment and things like that. My parents are not very giving people. They will only give you something if they can get something out of it. And it's a hard lesson in life, and it's an accurate one for being an adult because there are a few experiences where you will get anything for free. Nothing is ever free. There's always a price in one way or another. Even with things like childbirth, you're paying with your body. It's like you're always paying for something. That is the reality of life. People expect a free handout. It doesn't exist. Lotto, even then, you're buying a ticket, you've given money already. So there is an exchange there. It's not free. You don't automatically get signed up to a lotto, not unless this is like some kind of hunting games where you go on some kind of death show. I'm waiting for the purge to happen, but never mind. Anyway, I learned the lesson that you had to pay for something. It is transactional for the most part. I would love to give unconditional love freely, and I hoped to do it with my ex-boyfriend, to be honest, because I'd said, like right at the start, I don't want that kind of a love where you have to, everyone expects it back. I do this for you, so you do this for me, sort of thing. It's like you should just love and do it, and that should be it. And you give, but at the same time, you're always going to get some assholes going to exploit it. So, or for the most part, I hope there's more people out there that just want to give. It bugs the shit out of me that everybody's looking to, benefit in some way. Like, I'll only do something if you'll do this for me. Things have become too incentivized. People aren't doing the right thing just because it's the right thing anymore. They're just doing to get something out of it. It bugs the shit out of me. Even like those people who are, doing good deeds. They only do good deeds, like feeding the homeless and stuff, as long as they've got a phone in their hand and they're videotaping and they put it on YouTube and then they get paid through the AdSense. It's like, are you actually doing it to do the right thing, or are you actually doing it for the updates? So what is wrong with you? People aren't just being nice to be nice anymore. It bugs me. And what bugs me as well is like when they're talking about wokeism. Now, my understanding of wokeism is doing the right thing. regardless of whatever everyone else says. We know it's the right thing because we have a conscience, so we do it. But you always get assholes who are bandwagon jumpers who are jumping on the woke movement, and it is a movement at this point. There's been thousands of fucking movements if you pay attention, but this is the one that's particularly relevant at this point. Like Meghan Markle, for example. Everyone's cracking the shits because apparently she's woke. She's not. She's bandwagon jumping. She has found a movement which seems nice, and she is using it as a vehicle to push her own agenda, which is usually ego stroking. She's a narcissist. They've given her a stage by marrying Harry, and now she's going to push her own agenda, which is stroking her ego and getting everyone to like her. It's a popularity contest for her. She's not making much money out of it, as far as I can see, because nobody wants to support her financially. I mean, Spotify and that keeps ditching the bitch. But, you know, but she's traveling under the woke umbrella. And then you get talk show people that keep saying, oh, this woke movement, oh, we've got her as the figurehead. It's like, she's not the figurehead. She's a leech. She's just following it for popularity. Lots of people do that. It's like, everyone else seems to like this, so I'll like this, and then I can take the credit. These people like this exist in the workplace. This is not a new phenomenon. It's like, I will latch on my whatever to this movement or this group of people, and that way I'll get popularity by proxy. It's like, it's not new. So it gives me the shits when they label wokeism as reflective of people like Meghan Markle, because she's not. She's a leech. She's not doing the right thing. I'll tell you this for a fact. If you are making money off of any kind of good deed and labeling it as wokeism, you're wrong. Because it's not wokeism. You don't profit from doing the right thing. You do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. That includes, you know, following Black Lives Matter. That includes, you know, eating organically vegetarian, whatever. The whole point of it is to do the right thing because it's the right thing. Not because you can get something out of it. It bugs the shit out of me. It's like having a moral code. It is a moral code. You are nice to people not because you expect them to be nice back, but because it's what should be, what should happen. And I get some greedy, self-serving prick who just wants to benefit in some way. Money, ego, status, moral high ground. Oh my God. And then they fuck it up. And of course everybody's turning against wokeism now because we're associated with fucking Meghan Markle. It's like, I didn't sign up for this bitch. She annoys the shit out of me. It's fake. She's Hollywoodized a movement of morality. It's annoying. I'm going, don't tar me with the same brush as that troll. It annoys me. I'm not considering that I am part of the woke movement. To be honest, I'm trying to be as pragmatic as possible with most things. Because I like to observe, not because I'm identifying as anything in this particular, you know, I know I'm a temporary element in this world. I know I am. And it might give you, you know, existential crisis at certain points in your life when you're like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? But at the same time, I know the impermanence of our nature as a human. It's not like we need to hook up to any kind of movements. And for the most part, people sign up to shit because they want, you know, social approval and stuff like that. I'm happy to just exist where I am, doing what I am. If I want something, I reach for it. If I don't want it, I don't reach for it. It's not like I'm trying to be greedy or attention seeking. To be honest, the only thing attention brings is problems. I'll tell you that. You stick your head above the trenches, you'll get fucked up. I've seen it and I've done it. I'm good. And you can see that right now with Meghan Markle. She's like, as soon as you stick your head above the trenches, if you are not in current favour, you're going to get fucked over. And they are digging into her. Something fierce. But then again, maybe they can smell the fakeness. It's blood's in the water. They know. So they're going to rip into her as much as you can. And you can hook yourself up to, you know, giving out homeless people supplies and fucking free bananas and shit. It's like, I like free bananas, but I'm not going to sit there and, you know, do a Twitter post about it. It's like, although I did get some free pears, and I was like, I put that in Instagram. I'm just happy that they gave me free shit. But it's not because I gave stuff. It's like, if I do anything nice, I'm not going to take a picture. I'm just not. It's stupid. It's self-serving, egocentric, and selfish. If I get free shit, I'm going to be like, yes, thank you very much. I would love a box of pears. I would love some, what was it, free avocados the other day. I'm like stoked. I'm like, yes, because I want to celebrate their goodness, not mine. If I have goodness, I mean, that's relative as well. What is goodness? Oh my God, don't get me started on Foucault. Anyway, right. The thing is to celebrate other people. It's not to celebrate us. If we're self-serving, it's not going to help anyone in the long term because we just become selfish. So celebrate other people doing the right thing. And that way, eventually it does come back down to us, where someone will celebrate our goodness. And we won't have to promote ourselves. Just be nice. Oh shit, I've come down the wrong turning. I'm early. Anyway, sorry. I keep forgetting I'm driving. But, you know, I can't do that. People are so selfish these days. I mean, look at Keanu Reeves, right? I fucking love that man. I do. He's doing so well, light work-wise. I can't. He owns, or he contributes to, as far as I know, to a cancer research business, company, fund, trust, something. We didn't know about it at all, because his name's not attached to it at all, but he does. Until somebody did some research. We just didn't know. Like, how many celebrities are like him who just do stuff and don't publicize it? But we find out about it through word of mouth. It's like, that's the way to go. It's like, don't be obvious about it. If it's good enough, it'll come back round and it'll become obvious. Everything comes out in the wash. At the same time, everything that's shit comes out in the wash. So be wary of what you're doing. You shouldn't be self-promoting. Like, the Kardashians make me want to vomit. It's constant. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's just prostitution. I don't know what their mum is doing, whether it's a mum or a pimp. I don't know, but she is whoring her daughters out for updates. Something fierce. They're making a mint because essentially, you know, it's the oldest game in the book, right? But gross. It's immoral. It is immoral. It's self-serving immorality, and they're profiting of it. And they love doing it because it's attention seeking for the girls. It gets them money. They can push their brands. I mean, to pull it back to the theme of the podcast, they're coercing you to follow them. They want to be deified because it's ego and narcissism. Does it help anyone? Are they putting this money or behavior to a good cause of any kind? No. It's self-serving. So I hope they fucking fall, Babylonian sluts. Is that too harsh? Is that too harsh? Probably. I'm not jelly. I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed because you're doing it wrong. All that money and still not doing the right thing. Oh, Christ. Inevitably, it gets lost somehow. What legacy are you passing on? I don't know. I don't know. It's not helping anyone. I hope people actually come to recognize how much it's screwing the world over by hoarding that kind of shit. And they might try and, you know, donate to charity or something like that to appease their conscience if they actually have one. I'm pretty convinced they're soulless at this point. But they'll probably try and videotape it. So it's like, look what charity we did. Oh my God, Courtney. Oh my God, we donated to charity. Look at these gross homeless people. Oh my God. Oh my God, he smells so bad. Yeah, I'm hoping they just die. No, that's a bit harsh. But I can't stand the fakeness. I really cannot. It disgusts me. It turns my stomach. It's like you have a platform to do so much good, to help so many, if you just do it. But they're so obsessed with themselves and pumping up their money and pumping up their updates. And look at me, I've amassed so much wealth. Oh my God, how did you do it? I fucked someone on video. It's like, you're a whore then, aren't you? And it could be slut shaming, but I would do that to any sex or gender. If you do that for money, that's you being a whore. That's by definition the act of. So that's got nothing to do with your sex or gender. Oh, Christ, gives me the shits. So you lack morals, dude. You lacked, you know, yeah, it's disgusting. Anyway, where am I going with this? Coercion. Probably you need to consider, looking at it critically, the ways in which we are being coerced, not conversed. Oh my God, my brain's gone. Is it good? What is it that, oh, I love Zoroastrianists. was it kind thoughts, kind words, kind deeds? Is it worth it? Is it moral? Is it clean? Is it helping? That's the kind of thing you need to have. It's like, there's no good doing self-serving shit. It backfires. It's the very definition of flavor of the month. At some point you will lose your popularity. You will lose it. And you can't take all this wealth and shit with you. You are supposed to be using it here in the 3D. This is your purpose. If you've been given the gift of wealth and popularity, hopefully through not ill-gotten gains, then you're supposed to be using it to help people. If you were given good looks, maybe, for example, to put it on a shallow note, maybe you're meant to be using that somehow to help people. We're all given gifts. If you're exploiting it for self-gain, then you're fucked. What are my gifts at this point? Slight psychic ability. Should I brag about that? I don't know. Could be trauma response, who knows? I have some gifts, but I'm using them to help other people. There is some exchange of funds because I do need to exist, so my teaching capabilities and my, readiness to look after kids, I get paid for, yes, because if I didn't, the gifts would have to go away because I wouldn't survive if I starved to death. So in that case, exchange is necessary, but I'm not living outside what I need to get by. I'm not trying to amass as much wealth as possible and things like that, because I know it will never get used unless I turn it to something like proper charity work, like Keanu did. And he doesn't exactly use all his money anyway. He sends it to charity, and I'm pretty sure he lives in just a very modest apartment, which is admirable as well, because it could get to your head and you could be doing stupid things with the money, like taking drugs and developing very horrible habits. And I suppose that's the curse of being given all these gifts and not knowing how to use it. Even a blessing will turn into a curse if you use it inappropriately. Look at Prince Andrew. You're given access to a platform and people and wealth and privilege. And what did you do with it? You hung out with pedophiles. I'm hoping he just hung out with pedophiles, because if he partook of the pedophile stuff, I'm not going to be happy. And I hope he gets exactly what he deserves in that case. That's disgusting. I cannot tolerate people harming children. I just cannot. It fucks me up. It really fucks me up. I cannot. I have severe issues with that. Anyway, coercion. I'm sorry. I went on a tangent there about celebrity and stuff. I don't like the fakeness. I really don't. Right, what can we bring away from this? Some coercion is good. It will help you in regards to like education, teaching, getting you to a better spot in life, better life chances, obviously. Some coercion is bad, whereas you've got things like, coercive rape, mass media, brainwashing, things like that. I say brainwashing. My dad used to use brainwashing in regards to religion. He's not exactly a very tolerant man. Misinformation as well. Unfortunately, yes, Prince Harry keeps going on about misinformation, but I don't know if he understands what it fucking means. But okay. Yes, I mean, we're looking at propaganda. Consider propaganda of the Second World War, when they were dropping leaflets out of planes saying you're going to lose and stuff like that. I find that hilarious. I think that was just someone having a silly half hour. It's like, you're going to lose. Oh my God, it's even in our language. How did they know? We're manifesting. It can be, it's coercion. It can be good and it can be bad. The question is, what are you going to benefit from this? Is it good? Is it kind? Is it going to help people? You should be always looking to do the right thing. Even if it means going against the masses, even if it means changing the plan. Plans change, even in the field, even in the trenches. We might make a plan, but when we get to the point, you need to adapt that plan to Christ, it's nearly Friday. Suit the circumstances, okay? No plan is watertight. It's just never. It's adaptive. It's constantly. It's a working document. So you're going to have to adapt it at some point. I'm sitting outside my school. I'm looking at parents going in. I'm going to have to go. I hope you have a fantastic Wednesday. We've got 2 more days and then we can eat our, snack ration packs. I can. You guys are probably, more sane than I am. I don't know. I find it very productive. I like it. It's constructive that I limit my junk food. I know it's bad for me, even though they keep putting ads on the TV. Oh my God, don't even get me started about people suing McDonald's with coercion. It's like they marketed it, so we have to do it. We have no choice in this. Oh, fuck off. You wanted to eat it anyway. Jesus, how weak is your brain that you were that open to suggestion, honestly. Anyway, don't get me started on that. That's a whole nother podcast. Take care of yourself. I'm hoping you have a really good day. We're halfway through now. Hump day, okay? We're just passing over. Okay, take it easy. Bye.
Is the interval between one tone and another. Steps, as it were, on the scale. It's the interval. So in the same way, in the intervals between this year's leaves, last year's leaves, this